Some Guinness World Records are fun, some are bizarre, and some are so disturbing that Guinness banned them entirely, including the case of a man who lived with no heart at all carrying his artificial one in a backpack. This is the record's levels, and every layer hides something you were never meant to know. Let's begin. Take Will Cutbill, for example. His journey to the Guinness World Records didn't begin with years of preparation. It started with a delivery mistake. Instead of a chocolate bar, a courier accidentally brought him a bag of M&Ms. Out of boredom, Will wondered if he could stack them. Minutes turned into hours as he kept trying, failing every time, until finally he balanced 5 M&Ms on top of each other. Then there's Milan Roskov, a unique Slovak athlete who decided that juggling wasn't impressive enough unless it involved danger, heavy kettlebells, metal shot puts, even running chainsaws. Milan combined precision, courage, and absolute focus to push juggling into the realm of madness. His most iconic performance came in 2009 when he juggled 3 working chainsaws, throwing and catching them 62 times in a row without losing a limb. Some records are born not from skill, but from tragedy. In 2005, a young Chinese gamer known as Snowly spent 3 days in World of Warcraft without sleep. Her body couldn't withstand the strain, and she died at her desk. The gaming community responded in a way no one expected. Hundreds of players gathered inside the virtual world to hold an in-game funeral. The event became the largest virtual funeral in history, forever marking Snowly's place in internet culture. Kenichi Ito, the fastest man on all fours, mocked in childhood for running like a monkey, he embraced it, literally. Inspired by watching primates in a zoo, he spent over a decade perfecting his quadrupedal running technique. Step by step, he transformed an odd hobby into a legitimate athletic discipline, setting multiple world records and redefining what running can mean. Some records push the boundaries of human transformation. Cindy Jackson, for example, underwent more than 50 cosmetic procedures in her pursuit of an ideal appearance. Nose surgeries, facelifts, implants, liposuction, she reshaped herself piece by piece. Her dedication earned her the title of the most surgically modified woman in history, turning her into a symbol of extreme self-reinvention. And then there's Jonathan Lee Riches, the man who turned lawsuits into a personal sport. While most people never file a single lawsuit in their lives, he filed more than 4,000 against celebrities, companies, historical figures, even fictional characters. When Guinness recognized him as the world's most litigious man, he did exactly what everyone expected. He immediately tried to sue Guinness. As we descend into the next layer of the Guinness iceberg, the tone becomes heavier. Here lie records that tied to extreme human physiology and records involving danger, ethics, and survival. These are not amusing achievements. They are unsettling, controversial, and sometimes tragic. John Brower Minnock, the heaviest man in medical history. John Brower Minnock reached an estimated 1,323 pounds, making him the heaviest medically recorded man. At his peak, he couldn't be weighed at all. His size, condition, and total immobility made it physically impossible. He had struggled with obesity since childhood. At 12 years old, he weighed 291 pounds. By 22, he stood 6 feet 1 inch and weighed 392 pounds, with his weight rising steadily afterward. In 1978, at age 37, he was hospitalized for severe heart and respiratory failure. Transporting him required over a dozen firefighters, modified stretchers, and even a ferry to get him to the University of Washington Medical Center. He was placed across 2 beds pushed together, and 13 people were needed just to turn him in bed. Placed on a strict 1,200-calorie diet, Minnock lost 924 pounds, the largest medically confirmed weight loss ever recorded. But by 1981, his weight had climbed back to 952 pounds, and doctors declared his condition untreatable. He died in 1983 at age 41, weighing 798 pounds. Matt Sutter, the longest distance a person has been thrown by a tornado and survived. Matt Sutter holds one of the most extreme survival records ever documented in meteorology. At just 3 years old, he was caught in an F5 tornado near Haverhill, Kansas, during the 1979 outbreak. The tornado tore him from his home and threw him an estimated 1,307 feet, nearly a quarter mile, making Sutter the farthest thrown person to survive a tornado. Despite the unimaginable force, Matt was found alive in a nearby field with only minor injuries and bruising. His survival remains one of the most extraordinary and unlikely outcomes in tornado history. Michael Malloy, the hardest man to kill. Michael Malloy, a homeless Irishman living in New York during the 1930s, became infamous for surviving a series of murder attempts that defy belief. A group of men, later known as the Murder Trust, took out multiple life insurance policies on him, and tried to kill him for the payout. They first gave him unlimited credit at their bar, expecting he'd drink himself to death. Malloy drank non-stop and survived. Next, they gave him antifreeze, turpentine, horse liniment, rat poison, and even oysters soaked in wood alcohol. Nothing worked. They fed him spoiled sardines mixed with broken glass. He kept coming back for more. When poison failed, they tried physical attacks, leaving him passed out in the snow at -14 degrees Fahrenheit, attempting to run him over with a taxi, and several other staged accidents. Malloy survived every attempt until they finally managed to kill him by carbon monoxide poisoning in 1933 after months of failed murders. His endurance earned him the notorious nickname Iron Mike, the man who simply refused to die. Clint Hallam, the most amputations on the same arm. Clint Hallam became known for one of the strangest medical records in transplant history. He underwent 3 separate amputations on the same arm. Hallam originally lost his right hand in a prison-related accident. In 1998, he became the recipient of the world's first modern hand transplant, but the surgery quickly turned into a medical nightmare. Hallam refused physical therapy, skipped medications, and complained that the hand didn't feel like his. Within months, the transplanted hand began to atrophy, develop infections, and lose circulation. Doctors eventually had no choice but to amputate it, marking his second amputation on the same limb. Years later, complications and tissue damage around the stump forced surgeons to remove more of the arm yet again, resulting in a third amputation on the same limb. His case remains one of the most unusual failures in transplant history, and the only documented instance of 3 amputations performed on the same arm. Level 3. Deep Abyss. As we enter the deepest layer, the tone of the records world changes completely. Here, the achievements are no longer entertaining or strange. They're unsettling, medically extreme, and sometimes horrifying. These are the kinds of records that could never be repeated today, and in some cases, probably never should have happened in the first place. Michael Hill, the largest object ever removed from a human skull. Being stabbed is already traumatic. Being stabbed in the head is something else entirely. In 1998, American citizen Michael Hill survived a knife attack where his assailant buried a 20-centimeter, 8-inch blade straight into his skull. Miraculously, Hill remained alive and conscious long enough to reach medical care. Surgeons managed to remove the knife, establishing an astonishing and grim record, the largest foreign object ever extracted from a human skull, with the patient surviving. It is a record no one should ever attempt to surpass. Abulfazl Cyber Matari, the human magnet. From Iran comes Abulfazl Cyber Matari, a man who claims he can stick nearly any object to his body: plastic, metal, glass, fruit, stone, even a full-grown adult. But his specialty is spoons. In 2021, he entered Guinness by attaching 85 spoons to his body at once. In 2023, he surpassed himself with 88 spoons, solidifying his title, the world's most successful human magnet. Ken Edwards. The most cockroaches eaten in 1 minute. Most people hate cockroaches. Ken Edwards eats them. In 2001, during a television challenge, he devoured 36 live cockroaches in 60 seconds, setting a revolting and unmatched record. Over 20 years later, no one has dared to break it. Sridhar Chilal, the longest fingernails ever grown on one hand. Born in 1938 in Pune, India, Sridhar Chilal made a teenage vow. After being punished for breaking a nail, he decided he would never cut his left-hand nails again. He kept that promise for 66 years. By 2015, the combined length of the nails reached over 9 meters, 30 feet, the longest ever recorded on a single hand. Living with the nails was nearly impossible. Sridhar struggled to work, sleep, travel, and even dress himself. In 2018, he finally agreed to cut them. They are now preserved in Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in New York. Michel Lotito, the man who ate a plane. Michel Lotito, known as Monsieur Mange Tout, Mr. Eat All, may be the most extraordinary eater ever recorded. Born in France in 1950, he discovered in adolescence that his stomach could digest glass, metal, rubber, and even bicycles. Doctors found his stomach lining twice as thick as normal, and his gastric acid unusually potent. Paradoxically, he struggled to digest bananas and hard-boiled eggs. His masterpiece was his most legendary consumption. Between 1978 and 1980, he ate an entire Cessna 150 aircraft, piece by piece, washed down with water and mineral oil. He died in 2007 of natural causes, never once claiming digestive discomfort. The 137-kilogram tumor, the heaviest tumor ever removed. In 1991, surgeons encountered one of the most terrifying medical cases in history. A woman presented with a massive tumor weighing 137 kilograms, 302 pounds. the heaviest tumor ever recorded. She had been bedridden for years, unable to move under its crushing weight. Against enormous risk, surgeons operated for hours and successfully removed the monstrous growth. The case remains one of the most extreme examples of human pathology ever documented. Finally, there is the man who lived 555 days with no biological heart at all, relying solely on a portable artificial pump. He carried his heart in a backpack, going to school, walking outdoors, living daily life, all while technically being a person without a heart.